Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I'm so glad you're here today because if you're building an AI startup right now, you know the ground beneath your feet is constantly shifting. Today, we are unpacking a high-stakes, honestly potentially existential topic for your business, the newly delayed EU AI Act deadlines. We've gone ahead and combed through all the dense legal briefs, the omnibus proposals, and the expert analyses so you don't have to. Let me just ask you this directly. And I'm talking to you, the founder, the CTO, the compliance officer. Did the EU literally just give AI startups a free pass to delay compliance? You might have seen the headlines about the digital omnibus delay and breathed a huge sigh of relief. But is that relief actually justified, or is it a trap?
All right, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit the delay myth, figure out the deadline matrix, tackle transparency rules, look at costs and relief, break down the new bans, and finally, lock in your actual survival strategy.
Okay, Section 1, the AI Act delay myth. Let's tackle the dangerous regulatory paralysis that's kind of trapping a lot of founders right now.
Because look, it's a huge trap. The myth going around is that deadlines are just bumped to 2027, so hey, we can just pause our compliance efforts, right? Wrong. The cold hard reality is that the original August 2026 deadlines are absolutely legally binding until this new omnibus actually hits the official journal of the European Union. So no, the delay isn't law quite yet.
To really hammer this home, listen to what Doug Barbin of Shellman had to say. He points out that if the Council and Parliament negotiations happen to drag past August 2026, well, the original deadlines stay right there on the books. You literally cannot build a survival strategy hoping politicians work quickly. That's just a bad bet.
Moving on to Section 2, the three-pathway deadline matrix. It's time to figure this out because your deadlines depend entirely on what type of AI you are actually building.
Taking a macro view of the timeline, obligations are going to stagger pretty significantly over the next few years. The Act officially entered into force back in August 2024, but the heavy-hitting compliance milestones cascade from transparency rules in 2026 all the way to strict embedded system rules in 2028.
So, you've got to find your specific route. Pathway A is all about transparency. Pathway B, that's for Annex 3 standalone high-risk systems, think HR or EdTech tools. And Pathway C covers Annex I embedded systems like medical devices. Listen to me on this one. Confusing the Annex 3 standalone pathway with the Annex I embedded pathway will lead to massively misallocated budgets. You have got to know exactly which column you fall into.
All right, Section 3, transparency and watermarking rules. Let's look at the immediate hurdles if you're building generative AI models.
Under Article 50, these rules are your immediate reality. You have to clearly disclose when a user is interacting with AI. You've got to label deepfakes, and you must embed machine-readable watermarking. So think standards like C2PA or SynthID. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. These rules are heavily contested right now. It's a massive tug-of-war between a strict August 2nd deadline and a proposed December 2nd grace period. The absolute crucial takeaway here, and TechJack Solutions hit the nail on the head with this, is to plan for August 2nd, 2026. Use that as your conservative planning baseline. If the formal omnibus text ends up giving you until December, fantastic. Bank those extra months for testing. But please, do not find yourself scrambling at the last minute just because you assumed a delay.
This brings us to Section 4, startup costs and sandbox relief. Let's face the bootstrapped reality of what this actually costs.
Because regulation is never free, right? 20,000 to 200,000 euros. That's the staggering estimated compliance cost for a high-risk AI system. When you factor in conformity assessments, legal fees, technical documentation, I mean, that is a literal existential threat for a pre-revenue startup that's just trying to get off the ground.
But hey, here comes the cavalry. The omnibus proposes expanding relief to what they call SMCs, or small mid-caps. We're talking companies with under 750 employees and less than 150 million euros in turnover. If you fit that bill, you get simplified documentation and, critically, capped fines, meaning your startup might just escape that devastating 35 million euro maximum penalty. That completely changes the risk math.
And it gets better. To help offset these costs, you need to aggressively utilize regulatory sandboxes to test your system safely. You can jump into national hubs like Spain's ASCI, which is already up and running, or look toward the EU-level sandbox proposed for August 2027. By taking advantage of these priority access queues for SMEs, you can validate your high-risk AI without carrying the crushing burden of full market entry compliance.
Let's move to Section 5, New Prohibitions and Enforcement. We need to talk about the sneak attacks, the newly added rules.
These are rules that were completely absent from the original act. Generative AI providers have to actively assess foreseeable misuse risks right at the design stage. The EU Parliament pushed through strict bans on AI tools that generate non-consensual intimate imagery, the so-called nudifiers, and CSAM. They also tightened the standard for using special category data for bias detection down to strict necessity. You have to be building safeguards for these specific points right now.
There's also a massive power shift happening in enforcement. In the past, you'd deal with a fragmented patchwork of different national regulators. Not anymore. Now, if you are building on general-purpose AI models, you answer directly to the centralized AI office in Europe. They hold exclusive competence. They have the power to investigate, and they have the power to find you directly. It's a whole new ballgame.
Finally, Section 6, the no-second delay strategy. Let's wrap up and shatter the hope that the EU will simply kick the can down the road again when 2027 rolls around.
Because as VerifyWise brilliantly points out, betting on a second delay is a huge gamble that leaves your company totally exposed. A regulation that gets delayed over and over loses its credibility. The political capital to stall this is gone. The European Union's influence, that famous Brussels effect, relies entirely on the AI Act actually being a binding text with real teeth.
So, what do? Here is your specific action plan to take away from this explainer. Execute these 4 steps immediately. 1. Classify your system into its correct pathway today. 2. Build that watermarking infrastructure right now. 3. Assume these fixed omnibus dates are final. And 4. Use any time gained by this delay as a runway to build, not pause. Turn that compliance into a massive advantage for EU procurement.
I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Will your compliance be a bottleneck, or will it be a competitive advantage in EU procurement? Because when you pitch to enterprise clients in Europe, they are going to demand AI Act readiness, period. The founders who act on this explainer today will turn a terrifying regulatory burden into their greatest competitive edge. Thanks for diving into this complex topic with me. Stay focused, get building, and I'll see you on the next explainer.